Hi everyone. Um, I was just going to do a little bloggy type thing. I've already tried to do this once, but the first one was pretty rambly and I didn't really have much of a direction to go on other than to show some um, opposition to a current school of thought that's in the um, asset creation part of our Minecraft modding community. So, as it stands right now, a lot of people feel comfortable using um, a couple of things to do custom models for Minecraft. Custom models haven't really existed within the modding community for relatively that long compared to the lifetime of Minecraft modding. And the options have been limited to what we've been able to use. So in the beginning, we didn't have any capacity to be able to use known file formats for models. And in order to allow artists and other asset authors to be able to produce models for Minecraft in a custom capacity, Techni came along. And Techni has for the longest time been a kind of standard. Um, and it works just fine, um, but it's quite limited. And then more recently, Taboola has come along by Agent, and Taboola is kind of like the advancement of that idea. But for a while now, we have actually had the capacity to be able to use at least one file format for custom models in Minecraft. I kind of twisted Parmar's wrist because he needed some model work done, and I'm a professional modeler and animator, 3D. Um, and he wanted some work done for Equivalent Exchange 3. And I told him, sure, I'll do some work for you if you put it in Forge that we're able to use a more standard file format for models. And the format we came up with as the best first option was OBJ, or Lightwave Object, which is an extremely lightweight model format, which is incredibly efficient at very low polygons, and as long as it's not animated, or at least doesn't have what we call morph targets, but those aren't applicable to Minecraft anyway, and at least at this stage, so it doesn't bear talking about. The issue of the talk actually is that we've had this ability to use this file format, which also means that we've had this ability to use a more professional. Well, I need to update. I'm 2 versions behind. We're up to 3ds Max 2015. So we've had this ability to use professional software for modeling for a while, as long as you're working with OBJ. And it's just basically the best option. I don't know how I can communicate that better, but it really truly is. And I highly suggest that anyone that wants to do models for Minecraft sincerely think about doing their format as OBJ. The reason for that is because if you're interested in, okay, first of all, if you're interested in creating models at all, in any capacity, if you use a more professional suite, like 3ds Max, like Maya, like Rhino, like Sony Cinema 4D, like Blender, then you can carry those skills into other games, or if you are professionally interested in 3D modeling, then you can carry those skills forward into your education or whatever. That's, let's just call that one for what it is. It's a skill-based thing, and you can more readily take those skills across into other things by using a common denominator, like a piece of software that is readily used in the professional scene. The other thing is that it is better on your coders. The reason being is that, or at least to my understanding, which is about 6 months to a year old at this point, that both Techne and I think Taboola is a bit better about it because it has object hierarchies, but each individual cuboid, so this is a cuboid, right? It's got 6 sides, and basically the way that Techne and Taboola work is by each piece of new geometry you make is a separate cuboid. But that in Taboola and Techne, each separate cuboid is a standalone object. Whereas in OBJ I can do something like this. Let's just do a random object, turn that into a editable poly, and then attach that. So now these two cuboids, these two separate pieces of geometry, if I exported that as a object, that would be counted as one set of model information, which makes it a lot easier for importing and exporting for your programmers, your mod programmers. And I highly suggest that you make it easy on them as possible. It also means you can do things like, let's just do something like, yeah. We're going to make a person very quickly. These are legs. It's like a very rudimentary Steve. Okay. Here's some arms. Yep. And here's a head. What am I doing? Here we go. Right. Okay. So here's our rudimentary Steve. And our rudimentary Steve consists of legs, arms, what have you. Okay. And then somebody comes along with some custom armor, and it's made out of a whole lot of different blocks or whatever. In Taboola, if you wanted to animate, you would have to tell each of those individual blocks or give the information to each of those individual blocks. But because this is two cuboids, right, which are attached as one and have become one set of information. I'm not sure why I cloned that. That was accidental. Because this is one piece of information, only one rotation call or whatever needs to be made rather than two, one for this block and one for that block. Okay, so that's kind of the best way I can describe that. Oh, I moved this somehow. There we go. So, thank you, rudimentary Steve. There are a lot of other reasons why the professional suite is a better option for you if you want to create models in Minecraft. The benefits most simply are that it will improve your ability to model, and the takes limits off your imagination that you would otherwise have using Techne and Taboola. And it makes the job easier on your programmers, on your mod programmers. And I highly suggest that you do those two things. The other thing is that something which is a pet peeve of mine is that texture maps are automated in Taboola and Techne to some extent. I believe you have some control over it, but not a huge amount. What am I doing here? And excuse me while I just, like, my brain has a total malfunction about what I'm doing. No, I don't want to save. been very lazy, and I have a completely different area in my computer that I've saved things to. But let's take a look at steam and steel. And where's my boiler? Boiler! Now it's probably not going to have any textures. Oh, it does know where it's getting its textures from. Cool. So this is the boiler. And as you can see, it's textured nicely and what have you. But when you're doing UVW maps or texture maps, those things are... Please give me the actual... Set my texture list. What? This is all going horribly wrong. Please give me my material. Well, might be able to see it anyway. I've been able to pack the UVs into a square canvas, and square canvases are better for processing in general, and being able to pack the UVs into the tightest area possible is just more efficient, and it's industry standard to do so, and I highly suggest that you go and get into the habit of doing that, but you can't do that, at least to my knowledge, in Taboola or Technique. So that should be kind of a priority for you guys, is learning to do those things correctly. Now, this might seem like I'm getting down on Taboola and Technique. I'm not. They are fantastic learning tools to get somebody into modeling, and they're very good for programmers to do very simple assets that they would otherwise not have the artistic skill to otherwise do very well. And it also is a fantastic stepping stone. I think I already said that. Yeah, it is a fantastic stepping stone. But it is my belief wholly that if you're interested in doing fantastic assets for modded Minecraft, then you should very much move into a more professional piece of software like 3ds Max, which is my stomping ground. I can use other pieces of software, and in fact I was doing a tutorial series and then quickly stopped. I don't care to discuss that in this video, but I'm thinking about restarting that just to try and dissuade some of the myths that surround professional pieces of software. So I'm going to get into that bit of the conversation, which is that a lot of people are afraid to start using a professional piece of software because the myth that a lot of people like to expound wholly from a place of ignorance, because people who are professional and who use these pieces of software will always argue against that belief. But the myth that goes along with it is they're very hard to use. They're not. And that's why I kind of want to do a tutorial series, is because I want to prove that they're just as easy, if not easier, to use than Technique and Taboola. I'm not sure why the myth pervades so much in our community, but I have a feeling it's because of Blender. And Blender is a fantastic piece of software from a completely textbook perspective, because it is a powerful piece of software, it is a reliable piece of software, and it allows you to do everything pretty much that a industry standard software option has for you. And the bonus of that is that it's free, so that automatically sounds really appealing, right? Free does everything that the not free versions does, but there's a problem. The problem is that those pieces of software, or Blender rather, is incredibly unintuitive. Its interface sucks. The core programming team behind Blender will argue black and blue that the interface is the most amazing thing ever, and anybody that speaks out against it can go to hell. But they're programmers. They're not 3D modelers. Or at least I don't think the majority of them are. And the reason that their interface is like it is because they want to kind of change the way that we look at interfaces and stuff, and it's a really stupid idea to use Blender to do that if that's what you're trying to do, is change the language around computer interfaces. Then using a 3D modeling program is a really terrible place to start. Because a 3D modeling program basically needs to be as intuitive as possible. And unfortunately it's not, which makes it really, really intimidating and really nightmarish for newbies to get into. If you stick with it and you learn their interface language around Blender, you can do some fantastic stuff. But you have to learn an entire new language around computer interfaces, basically. Which I think is too much to ask. So, what are your options then if that's frightened you and like people tell you these stories about Blender and how horrible it is? Well, there's other programs you can use. The industry standard is usually Autodesk products. There is some small sectors of the industry that will use Sony Cinema 4D, which is another modeling program, but usually you'll find it's only small pockets, and even smaller for things like Rhino 3D, and even smaller for other ones. So like most of the industry tends to stick towards Autodesk products, which is at least in base modeling. I'm not talking about sculpting. At least with base modeling is Maya and 3ds Max. And the other thing that turns people off that then is because they hear the horror stories about how much 3ds Max costs, which is true. It's extremely expensive. It's a very, very, very expensive piece of kit, and I've had to myself, because of my profession, had to fork out that cash myself once. I have a license, which means that I can just use Autodesk products and update and upgrade for a lot cheaper, and that's the way it's been. But like in a professional context, if you're in a business, then you don't actually have to worry about the cost because your business has bought a business license for the program and stuck it on all the work computers. Okay, so that's how that generally goes, and that's why it's actually such an expensive piece of kit. Also because they have market monopoly, almost. So they can afford to demand ridiculous prices. Which is unfortunate. Like, that whole thing is a whole different discussion that I'm willing to have with other animators and other people who use these pieces of software. I love to rant about that. It's a topic I'm familiar with. But Autodesk have changed their tune in the last couple of years. And that is, if I go to my web browser and we go to Autodesk, is that they have an educational license. So if I went to products and then I went to 3ds Max and then I said free trial, it's going to try and offer me this 30-day free trial, right? Which isn't very much, and I'd highly suggest anyone trying to get into 3ds Max not take this free trial. This free trial is basically for businesses to figure out whether they like 3ds Max or not and want to use it. Okay, where you should be going is to get the educational license, because you're not making assets for a game which is going to be sold commercially. Then 3ds Max have an educational license so that you can create and learn their software. the educational license is for 3 years, which means you get to use their latest 3ds Max software for 3 years. You have to create an account on Autodesk. So basically you want to find the knowledge network, the Autodesk knowledge network, which is their teaching and learning stuff, and then you need to create an account. Obviously, if you click on sign in, it's going to say, come on internet, need an Autodesk ID? You probably will. So go ahead and sign up for that. Right, it's going to ask you some personal information. It's going to ask you some Autodesk stuff. I'd like to receive emails, yes, no, blah, blah, blah. All the usual stuff from somewhere like this. So create your account. There's also going to be a questionnaire that asks you what, are you a student, are you a mentor, are you faculty, and you want to say student. Okay. It's also going to ask you what school you come from. You don't need to put anything in that block, and if you and you can say self-taught as well. Autodesk doesn't care, they're just getting some statistical information from you. Right, once you have an account, you need to sign in, and then you go to download software. Remember, we're in the knowledge and learning section of Autodesk, and I'll show you how to get there directly. So then you need to sign in. And I'm going to do this, and that will be blanked out on the video, so don't worry about that. You won't be able to see anything. So if I sign in, get out of my way. But I'm now in my account, and you can see I can get all this stuff, including 3ds Max, right? And it says education, and that means which license it's using. Okay, and this is a account that I set up for this demonstration, by the way, which is why my official licenses aren't in this list. But also, let's just go here. We want to go to downloads in the knowledge network, and then, oh, no, sorry, overview, download software. Alright, I got myself lost on the actual website. So let's try that again. First of all, I'm just going to go there the way that I know how to go there. And you might figure out a faster way to get there, but I'm just going to go to Products, 3ds Max, and that's going to give me the list down the side. I'm going to go to Support and Learning, and then I'm going to go to Free Software for Students and Educators. Okay? And once you're there, you want to go to College and University Students under Student Software. And then it's going to give you all this stuff. And you want to go to 3ds Max or Maya. I'm not going to tell you not to use Maya, but generally for games and game design, houses tend to go towards 3ds Max versus Maya. Maya is more like a cinema environment, but you can use both just equally fine. So whatever you want to be interested in, go for it. 3ds Max though, just for our example, and then I can sign in or create an account, and that's what you want to do. You want to create an account. Even if you have the ID that I was just talking about, you want to do create an account, because this is different. This is the student account, and you sign up by using your Autodesk ID. Okay, so it's just going to match your Autodesk ID to your student account, but basically you need to sign in. I'm going to sign in, and once again I'm going to blank out my information. And you want to choose the latest version. Always get the latest version, because the documentation and environment's just going to be better for you. And you want to give them a language, an operating system. You have to be on a 64-bit operating system for 2015. So if you have a 32-bit computer, I believe, no, is it as far back as 2013? Yeah. So if you have a 32-bit operating system, you're going to have to use 32-bit, and it's the same with Maya. But for 2014 and 15, they expect that you have a 64-bit Windows operating system now. And then it's just going to say review, so you need to review your license, just make sure you know what you're getting into, but then you can do install now, okay? And that will be how you get to using. So if I go install now, I accept install, it's going to do a normal download, and that's actually going to give me that little program that a lot of people use, the web downloaders. And it's downloading. Trust me, this isn't the entire program. This is just the web downloader. That's why it's going so fast. I actually have a terrible internet connection. Okay, so then it's going to start downloading Autodesk 3ds Max 2015 or whatever version you've chosen. Or Maya or whatever you wanted. Okay, but that whole student license lets you get at so many different programs, which are absolutely fantastic. So you can use AutoCAD if you're an architect or want to get into architecture or engineering or whatever. As you can see, design, drafting, modeling, drawing, and engineering software. AutoCAD's for you. Fusion is a lets you collaborate with people using Autodesk products. I'm actually not sure what Inventor is, and this is another Revit, which is another architectural piece of software for architectural engineering. Okay, and you can actually get it more as well. So if we can go desktop products, one of my favorite, where is it? Mudbox. It's a sculpting, 3D sculpting software. It's really fun. If you want to do really high poly stuff, get into Mudbox. Or, yeah, okay. But your 3-year educational license covers you for all of this. The big caveat to that is you cannot make money off it. If you try and make money off it, Autodesk will take your license off you. Okay? So do not make money off the assets that you create. Otherwise you'll get a slap if they find out. And they'll take your license off you. But yeah, 3 years to get acquainted with that stuff. It's a pretty decent free trial, so I highly suggest you do that if you want to get into Minecraft modding. Or at least asset creation in Minecraft. Cool. So, now that I've shown you how to get that stuff, I'm going to, excuse me, I want to exit that, yes. So, now that I've discussed that, I've told you the reasons you should be using professional software, I've told you the reasons you should be using Techni and Taboola, and I've told you how to get some professional software for free. And 3ds Max is not scary at all to use. And it's probably the one that I'm going to be putting out the tutorials for. Okay, so point number 1. Professional software is more powerful. Point number 2. You can carry those skills into other games and your education if you're interested in taking your education into 3D modeling and asset creation. Number 3, it's nicer for your programmers to use the format than having to deal with the way that Minecraft interprets things. Okay. Number 4, Taboola is a great learning tool. So is Techni. Okay, just to get into those things. But if you feel like you're being limited, it's time to move on. 5, software isn't scary. It's easy to use, and I'll teach you how to do it, hopefully, and then you'll understand why it's not scary. Cool? And 6, go get it. You got a 3-year educational license. You've got no excuse. So, cool. Thank you all for listening to me ramble, and this one was a lot more clear and concise than my last attempt. So, please do consider, if you want to create custom assets for Minecraft, please do consider using professional stuff, because it's just in general better. And there's nothing to be afraid of. It's not something big and scary. You don't have to use Blender. Cool. Anyway, thank you. Bye.